Attack! You successfully repelled the soldiers' attack on the heart of the pirate base. Health 100. But the matter doesn't end here. Now you must work your way through tunnels already crawling with soldiers to reach the entrance of the pirate base itself. The mission isn't easy, but you don't have a choice. Fortunately, you tore to shreds all of the foes attacking the pirate base, so you have a couple of minutes for a peaceful pastime unrelated to rabid shooting, deafening explosions, and gushing blood. Move forward. You moved forward, mostly because in the tunnel, you didn't have a lot of other ways to go except backward. The tunnel curved slightly to the right, so you couldn't see what was happening ahead. Happily, by listening carefully, you were soon able to determine that a large number of soldiers was marching ahead. You moved forward a little more, pressing against the wall until you saw that your tunnel intersected with another tunnel, along which a massive crowd of armored mercenaries with weapons in their hands was advancing. We can wait for them to pass, or look for another path.
Let's try to find another path. I mean, I can't rely on my avatar's stealth, clearly. We've tried that in the past.
2 points of damage. You look left and right and noticed a ventilation hole in the wall, not far from you. The bolts holding in the grate were rusted through, so it didn't cramp your style to break into the ventilation shaft. Once inside, you immediately raised a cloud of old dust, inhaled in a sneeze, by sheer willpower alone. After determining the direction in which you were moving, you crawled along the shaft. You soon discovered that you were not alone here. Some little stinker, which you identified as a space rodent, bit you painfully on the finger. Apparently nobody had done any utility work or cleaning at this pirate base in a long time, because you soon observed a whole colony of space rodents on the move. A couple of them also decided to see what you taste like, so you had to defend yourself. Fortunately, the shaft ended soon with another ventilation hole, and the grate covering it literally crumbled to pieces in your hands. You freed yourself and discovered that you were in a small hangar. Looking around, you spotted small gates with the word warehouse written on them, and next to the gates a transporter on a gravitational pad. Examining the writing on the side more carefully, you realized that this was a Phaeton T-3400 transporter. To your right, a glass booth is illuminated from within. The dirty glass makes it impossible to determine whether or not someone is inside. Along the very center of the hangar, on the wall opposite from you, are the large gates of the airlock. You can approach the glass booth, go to the transporter, or go to the gates. Go to the transporter and sneak in like Snake?
Again, trusting my avatar's stealth. Never a good idea.
After the abilities from him we've seen, yes. But hey, he's sponsor champion.
Of course, there's the glass booth. What's in the booth?
What's in the booth?
It's too dirty to see what's inside. It could be an ally, it could be someone we could get like a key card or something awesome from.
In the booth.
Let's go approach the booth. I want to see what's in the booth.
Okay. You carefully stole up to the booth, okay, and peeked into the slightly open door. There was a Malak in a mercenary uniform, probably left here to guard the transporter. Judging by his desperate yawning and sleepy eyes, life hasn't been too interesting for him lately. We can storm an attack, or go away from the booth, and I reckon if it's like too dirty to see from the outside, maybe it's too dirty to really see out from the inside. I don't know.
Let's see how true that is. Let's go away from the booth.
Go away from the booth. What do you want to do now?
We have the transporter and we have the gates. Let's check out the transporter.
The silvery T-3000 transporter on the gravitational pad was parked by the gates of the warehouse, which were hospitably thrown open. However, this most likely means that there's nothing left inside. We can try to get inside, go into the warehouse, or go away from the transporter.
Let's try to get inside.
I love how we appear to be like on city streets, even though I know we're inside a fucking military base that like attacked the pirate base. Go inside, you said?
Yes.
You tugged on the transporter's side hatch, but it wouldn't budge. It's as if you need a key to get into the T-3400.
Son of a bitch! What's even the point? Well, let's try the warehouse then, I suppose.
You are inside the warehouse. which is barely illuminated by a couple of lights. All the racks and shelves are empty. All kinds of junk, torn packaging, and some small broken parts are strewn all over the floor. I want to know what a tired and bored Malak guard is fucking doing sitting there, honestly. There is a massive fucking invasion right now happening. And he's like, oh, I'm fucking... whatever. Scrub to his shit. All kinds of junk, torn packaging, and some small broken parts are strewn all over the floor. A note was fixed to the other side of the gates. The warehouse has been relocated. The new location is Depot 13.
So we can find somebody, or we can leave the warehouse.
Yeah.
Let's leave the warehouse and check out the gates.
Okay, we'll go away from the transporter, then go to the gates. The gates were clearly designed for the T-34 transporter in the hangar. You examined the gates closely, but could not find a control panel to open them. They must work some other way, perhaps by being in the transporter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe it just automatically opens. Okay, well, it appears we have two choices. We can go to the booth and fuck with that guy, or we can try to find someone in the warehouse.
I mean, I don't even know whether we have a fucking weapon. We certainly know we cannot physically manhandle the lock.
I know. Let's go ahead and try to find someone in the warehouse, as stupid as that is.
I think it's less stupid than trying to fisticuff him a lock, but I could be wrong, I guess. Smoke grenades, too. You diligently picked through the junk pile paving the floor, and good fortune unexpectedly smiled upon you. You found a bunch of smoke grenades which would drop while the supplies were being moved. So that's not someone, but it's grenades. Maybe we can use those to deal with them a lot.
I know, maybe we can, like, throw it into the booth and he'll suffocate. Let's try that.
Okay. Go away from the transporter, approach the glass booth,
Aha!
throw a smoke grenade inside.
Yes.
You tore out the pen of a grenade with your teeth for toughness, and then lobbed it into the booth. There was a blast, and puffs of choking smoke drifted through the slightly open door. The Malak, judging by the crashing sound, toppled off his chair in surprise and dashed for the exit. All you have left to do is go in at the entrance and whack him on the head. After being hit, the Malak submissively buried his nose in the floor and lost consciousness. Dude, you just CQC a Malak!
Pretty badass, huh?
You checked the mercenary's pockets and found a key with a tag labeled T-3400 in one of them. When you were finished with his pockets, you also took his blaster, 200 rounds. Then you threw open the door wider and entered the booth after first throwing a smoke bomb in. Looking inside, you observed that a monitor was built into the panel the Malak was sitting next to. And presently, it was showing the layout of the base's nearby tunnels. Just in case, you studied the information and tried to memorize it. Oh goody.
Well, that's good.
Leave the closet. We'll go to the transporter. We'll use the key. The key you took from the Malak proved indeed to belong to the transporter. You came 5 steps closer. The T-3400 chirped a greeting, and the side hatch unlocked with a click. You climbed inside the transporter and looked around. The controls appeared to be entirely old school, so you ought not to have any problems with them. You ought not, rather, not ought to not, or whatever. You also searched for a button to activate the onboard weaponry, but could not find one, meaning that the T-3400 has no weaponry. You plunge into depression, but you were distracted by the control unit for the jump meter, a special device that allows the transporter to jump into the air, given sufficient...
It's like a fucking Mach 5!
Some shocks on this mother. Brightening up, you started the transporter and drove up to the gates, hoping that this would help you figure out how to open them. This helped indeed, because a light built into the transporter began flashing, and the gates lifted by themselves. Hey! The path was clear. You followed the straight tunnel, which sloped downward slightly, because there was no place to turn around. After about 500 meters, you came to a crossroads where some joker had placed an enormous planter and driven in a stake with signs, which gave you to understand that the path to the left leads to the distillation room, while the path to the right leads to the sorting room, and the path straight ahead gets you to Depot 13. While you reflected on where you should go first, a small red light began blinking on the control panel, indicating that the fuel level was low. You flicked the gauge with your fingernail. Alas, this didn't raise the fuel level. Apparently, the first order of business is to find a fuel station. Transporter fuel is bottom of the barrel. The structure is 100%. The distillation room, the Depot 13, or the sorting room.
Well, we know the Depot 13 is the new warehouse.
Yes.
They have new fuel at the warehouse? Maybe, I don't fucking know. I don't even know what they do at the distillation room. Do they distill fuel?
It could be. Could also be alcohol. What do they do in the sorting room? Do they sort fuel? What's in the box? Fuel's in the box.
Alright, so... warehouse or distillation? I mean, what else would they distill?
Based on context clues we've gotten in the adventure, I don't fucking know. I would, my guess would be fuel there.
Let's try distillation room.
Empty tank. You're in a spacious room. One of its walls is lined with a row of fueling machines. Looks like you could come buy some fuel for you, T-3400 here. Fill up the gravity car. Full tank. It's a good thing we made the correct choice, because otherwise it looks like that would have ran out of fuel. And then, game over, yeah! I don't know. Might hit it, might not.
Or we might have to fucking walk the rest of the distance unless there's those gates.
What if it's a fuel-injected T-3400? You didn't consider that, did you, motherfucker?
No one ever does. Well, I guess we're going back.
Okay, hopped on the transporter. We got it. Had all the fuel. Back to the intersection we go. More than 3/4. Damn, this consumes a lot of fuel.
Maybe it's just really, really, long distance between these.
Could be. Could also be a tiny fuel tank.
Well, it is only driving around here. Why isn't this thing electric?
Bugga.
I guess we'll go ahead and go to the Depot 13 then.
Okay. So, passing the wide airlock gates. Okay, so it didn't drop to like a half. Like with every fucking turn, it just drops a quarter. Just wants to show you that it's not full. Passing the wide airlock gates, you found yourself at Depot 13, an enormous warehouse, the far side of which was barely visible somewhere in the distance. Perhaps something amongst the equipment here could be adapted to your transporter. We can find something to take in the depot and say, "Back it," and leave.
I guess we'll try to find something in the depot.
Okay. Available space, 120 bugs. You are inside Depot 13. You are surrounded on all sides by enormous racks crammed with everything you could want and a little bit of junk. Perhaps something here could even be adapted to your transporter. The important thing to remember is that its payload capacity is only 120 bug. Anything more, and it physically will not fly. It can fly?
I thought it jumped.
I thought it drove and had jumping capacity. What the fuck do you need to worry about jumping for if it can... Maybe it's like a turn of phrase. You know, the translation fucked it up.
It's true. It's like Japanese. The words for jump and fly are very similar.
Okay, so...
Anywho, so we have equipment, which is, I assume is stuff we can adapt to the transport. Weapons, which...
Alright, perhaps we can also adapt to the transporter. We can look for a handgun, although we have a blaster. I guess maybe we have ballistics too. I don't know.
No, we don't. The blasters should be sufficient. Let's go ahead and examine the shelves for equipment.
After a lengthy examination of the numerous racks, you determine that you need the following equipment: a powerful spotlight, a military radar, electromagnetic field suppressor, a turbocharger for the engine, navigator. You found only one of each item, and by it saying need, I think it just means that you found those things that could be useful.
Okay.
I'd assume. Like, I don't think we need all of them, because we certainly can't fit all of them.
I was gonna say, if we're going stealthy, it'd be like electromagnetic suppressor we'd want. Radar would have the opposite effect, assuming they have, like, passive radar or something.
I don't know.
A navigator might be handy, and that's not too big. Let's grab that first.
Okay, navigator. The value of the navigator is undeniable. Indeed, with it, you'll never get lost, no matter where you go. So grabbing that device wasn't in vain.
Excellent. Armor could also be nice. Also, I like how turbocharger is the only thing with boogs on it.
I know. You can pimp your car, yo. Pimp your transport. I'm glad that the Avatar has, like, the perfect power to, like, install all these things successfully, too. That's good.
Can't hide, but damn it, I can equip a navigator.
All that
it's just like a Garmin thing, right? It just has a sticky cup on it.
Whatever.
And I think the armor set might be nice as well for just survivability in case it does happen.
You carried plates of armor to the transport and then wasted no time putting them where they go. And so what of the T-3400 is noticeably heavier. Now it looks super cool, and you don't have to be afraid of a shootout. Now you don't even have to violate your conscience to call it an armored transporter. Armor 50%.
There you go. That could be very handy. Let's see. A light could be handy. I mean, do we have to see the navigate? Wait, probably.
Light, radar, and electromagnetic suppressor. I mean, any of those things. All of these things could be useful.
I mean, does this thing not have fucking lights on it? That'd be weird.
Well,
I'd assume not.
Might not. It might not have like a super cool, powerful light, like a spotlight. It might just have like meager, puny lights that don't work out.
That's so many boogs also. 65 boogs, dude.
Yes. I like to boogie.
I don't know if I want to get a turbocharger also.
At any rate, with all those books, you can only take one of those big-ticket items, a light, radar, suppressor. Even if you had the 120 books, you still couldn't take both of those.
Yep. So essentially, let's get the turbocharger. I think that's what it's trying to tell us. We can take the turbocharger, and then we can take one of the big-ticket items.
And then no weapons.
Yep.
I think. Okay. Panting and exclaiming a few bad words, you installed the turbocharger on the transporter's engine while getting covered with motor oil up to your ears. But now you're less likely to be late to your appointments, and breaking away from your pursuers will be much easier.
That's what I'm thinking we're gonna do, is just fucking blast past them.
Okay.
Now, let's see, if we're going with that in mind, the electromagnetic suppressor, are they gonna try to hit us with EMPs? Maybe that would deflect EMPs?
Radar could perhaps help you spot them to be aware of whatever vehicles might chase after you, I guess? I don't know.
Yep.
And a light, I don't know. It banishes the darkness.
I'm gonna go with the electromagnetic suppressor, because I suspect they will try to EMP blast us.
You took the electromagnetic suppressor more because of its awesome name than rational thought, because it isn't likely to come in handy. But
well, you know that, damn it.
But now you can proudly boast that your T-3400 is equipped with a sophisticated device.
Maybe it's just bullshit. Let's go ahead and...
You at least want to look at the weapons?
Sure.
Oh yes, this here is definitely something to get your hands on. Your eyes even began to move independently for a bit, but you immediately brought them back into place by the force of your will. Looks like weapons aren't exactly a thing you can put on this baby, or maybe you can, you just didn't have any books.
Well, we can look for another handgun, I suppose.
Okay, we have ourselves some frag grenades. You decided to also look after yourself just in case you and your transporter suddenly ended up taking off in different directions. After rummaging through the shelves, you found a little ammunition and extra 100 rounds for the blaster. And we're also lucky enough to find a motherboard compatible with your blaster. Okay, so three frag grenades and an extra 100 blaster rounds.
And now we can shoot bursts, so let's stop.
Yeah. So we'll drive to the intersection, I guess. And then to the sorting room, I guess.
I suppose so.
You approach some gates identical to those from which you took the T-3400. I hope we shouldn't refuel first. I'm sure we'll be fine.
I know, right?
Except these gates were labeled sorting room. They suddenly opened automatically, letting you pass. You want to drive in?
Yes.
You passed through the gates, which closed again behind your back, and found yourself on a narrow platform about 20 meters long. Immediately beyond the platform is an abrupt precipice, and the next platform is at a lower level and located some distance from the one you are on. Reviewing the big picture, you determine that to move between platforms, a special freight elevator is used, controlled from a booth located on the lower platform. You looked closer and observed some sort of pulling in the booth, who has not yet noticed you. You can't use the jump meter either, because a low ceiling hangs above the platform, and if you jumped, you would risk making a hole in the ceiling, or perhaps a hole in the transporter. In either case, your T-3400 would be unlikely to run afterward. Looks like we might have to resolve this without using the vehicle.
Alright, so we have two options here. We can wave our hands at the playing, or we can do some Evel Knievel shit. As much as I want to try the Evel Knievel shit, let's go ahead and see what the playing has to say. We'll shoot him if he does anything, right?
Even over the noise of the transporter's running motor, you can hear the roar of the playing stereo vision showing a hatchball match. He probably couldn't hear you, even if you wanted him to.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to jump.
You decided to try to rapidly accelerate and jump to the lower platform. I guess that actually is us using the vehicle. That's nice. We just wouldn't be able to use the jump meter. So what is it? Are we flying? Are we driving? Are we driving and jumping? Are we jumping and flying? Are we doing all?
I'm guessing it does jump like the Mach 5. It just has some things that go...
Okay. But it whatever. To do that, you would need to squeeze every last bit of the power out of the transporter's engines. Maybe us having that turbocharger isn't such a bad idea then. After returning to the gates, you swung around, smashed the accelerator to the floor, and the transporter shot forward with the engine growling furiously. The jump was a complete success. Not only did you leap across to the lower platform, you flew all the way to the booth with the Palang, easily crushing it with the front part of the transporter. Peeking out, you observed that the hatchball fan had flown headlong into the stereo vision screen, instantly finishing him off. Well, that's one less problem to deal with. You moved in reverse, banging and clattering the pieces of the booth, until the transporter was entirely free, then turned and drove to the middle of the platform. After driving forward a little, you saw that farther... What is with all these trees and shit? This is a fucking amazing military base! Dirt roads? What the fuck?
Makes me think of some of the stuff I've seen in the Xenosaga series, because it's just like, you know, their base and it has things on it.
Damn
just
art
like a city.
assets! After driving forward a little, you saw that farther ahead the entire platform was covered on one side, like there was like a fucking mining operation inside the...
They just towed an asteroid in there, Grimith, come on.
Okay. It was covered on one side with damaged transporters, mostly older models. They didn't stop you from driving by on the cleared side of the platform. After traveling about a kilometer, you came upon an intersection which, like the last one, had been furnished with a huge pot with plants and signs. That's just a justification for the fucking art, I say. Remembering the map you saw at the location where you expropriated the transporter, you understood that the path to the right would lead to the guard post, which would lead to guard post, while the path to the left would lead to the movable corridors. Heading to the guard wouldn't be worth it. That's the main tunnel, which is probably heavily protected by the Army's forces, and if you were to turn up there, it would seriously shorten your lifespan. But still, you could travel towards it.
I know, right? It's like a fucking... It's just like a trick trap they put out there. It's all, you know you want it. Now we'll go to the movable corridors.
Or maybe, like, you might think, and maybe it's true, that some of your equipment could somehow assist you in dealing with the guard.
Probably. We might be able to just blast through there with our armor and our turbocharger and our electromagnetic suppressor.
He's here! Blast him! Alright, movable corridors it is. The corridors, they move. You traveled a couple hundred meters in peace and quiet, then came across another departure in which several supply columns, including transporters, were moving. You decided to take advantage of this, because you needed to cross several hundred meters to reach the other side, in order to turn into the next side tunnel. We can try to force our way into the middle of the column, or fall in behind one of the columns.
Well, I mean, it would certainly be more stealthy just to fall in behind, right? Let's do that. We don't want to call attention to ourselves.
You waited for a break in the columns and then boisterously fell in behind one of them. You, transporter, differed little from the others because you calmly rode behind the rest of the transporters unnoticed by anyone. When the corridor you were hoping to reach was just a few tens of meters away, the entire column suddenly came to a halt. There seemed to be a small traffic jam. Talking filled the air, then you realized with horror that the station where the column had stopped had begun a roll call. You need to take some action before your presence is detected.
Son of a bitch, ram into it!
Yes, before the presence is detected. Rightfully deciding that a bit of panic in this chaos wouldn't bother anything, you pressed the gas pedal and naturally smacked into the gravicar parked in front of you. Your assessment was correct. Being struck from behind, the driver instinctively hit the gas, and consequently his transporter rolled forward and smashed the transporter in front of him, which due to inertia crashed into the one in front of it, and so on down the line. Thus the entire column lurched forward a bit, freeing the entry to your precious tunnel. You plunged into it without giving the members of the column time to think about what had happened and who was to blame. Traveling several meters down the narrow tunnel, you entered an average-sized hall, which was obviously designed for storing some sort of hazardous waste. You determined this by the fact that the entire hall was crammed with large barrels with warning labels, and the disgusting odor that pushed its way through even the air filter of your T-3400. Gates could be seen on the far side of the hall.
You know what I like? I like how they didn't notice how ours was different, even though ours is, laden with fucking armor. Apparently, they all are.
Those were the goods we were hauling. They were just
We strapped them on the
efficiently
outside.
carried, yes.
Yeah, we didn't have enough room inside.
The gates were closed and showed no response to the approach of your transporter. This is most likely because they are frequently blocked by barrels. You already wanted to ram them, but you were troubled by the odor, which stubbornly confirmed, like, no! I'm not anything else!
I'm flammable.
Confirmed that something flammable was in the barrels that could go up in a big bang. Well, let's try to ignite one of its contents. We lost some health. Fantastic. Suffering from the unbearable stench in the air, you began to pick at the cover of the drain hole on one of the barrels. In the end, after painfully pinching your finger and spilling some of the flammable liquid onto your pants, you succeeded in your task. I think that means goodbye pants. Then you moved to where the fuel was beginning to flow, ignited it, and with all your might dashed at the transporter. You had hardly climbed inside when a detonating explosion sounded, burning debris flew in every direction, and several more barrels detonated in other parts of the hall. When everything around stopped exploding, you opened your eyes and noticed that the gates were now clear. What's more, several of the exploding barrels had opened a dark passage that you had not previously noticed, leading somewhere in the same direction as the gates. So we can enter the hangar or follow the navigator's readings.
Well, of course we're gonna follow the navigator. Hopefully we can fucking see in here.
That's a good thought. You still want me to do it?
Yes.
Okay. You checked the navigator, which confirmed that the dark tunnel was an alternative way to get into the same hangar to which the gates led. If you could pass through this tunnel, your appearance would be a surprise to the potential enemies waiting for you in the hangar. So, you enter the hangar through the bypass tunnel.
I'm guessing the bypass tunnel is the dark tunnel, so
Yes.
yeah.
You entered the hangar in a place entirely unexpected by the soldiers. You understood this when you observed them 20 meters off, standing with their backs to you and staring intently in the direction of the gates. What was the explosion, right? They were hiding behind two barricades made of bags. Even more gladdening to your heart was the sight of the portable heavy weapon that these guys left in the rear, clearly not planning to use it against you. Unfortunately for them, you decided to use it, and after two bursts, one for each of the barricades, the ambush was over. That's nice, we didn't have to do it. Like they say, they didn't even know it hit them. Leaving the hangar through the gates opposite those through which you entered, you laid on the gas pedal and carried on, quick as the wind. Less than 10 minutes later, you saw an orange and red barrier, signaling the fact that repairs are underway up ahead. You looked closely and saw that the path had been dismantled in places. In some places the beams and covering remained intact, but where they were missing, dark chasms, which ought not to be fallen into, gaped wide. The upper portion of the tunnel was also dismantled, but the coverings were narrower there.
Well, great. This could be another situation where the light might be handy, right?
So we can pick the widest beam and drive along it, or pick the widest beam and drive along it, squeezing all the power we can from the gravicar.
I mean, it could be handy, but I don't know. We might jump over it. We might sail into the night. Fuck it, let's go squeeze all the power we can.
That's what we had the turbocharger for, right? Woo! You revved the engine and shot forward, trying to stay away from the potholes in the road so some absurd accident. I like the view here with the eyes. Oh man. Didn't stop your important and high-ranking mission. When the engine suddenly failed, you just shook your head, amazed at your own prophetic insight. If this could happen with an ordinary pothole, who knows what else might happen. Meanwhile, inertia carried the transporter forward several meters, and it almost fell into one of the potholes. Then it conked out completely. Even the cabin light died, which you took to be a bad sign. Fortunately, the start button worked properly, and the revived engine again began to rumble cheerfully. You started to wonder what all that was, but there was no time to sit and think. So you started off again, eyeing the instrument panel suspiciously. So we can try to keep moving, look around, leave the transporter, or launch the electromagnetic suppressor.
Launch the suppressor.
The idea crept into your head that somebody up ahead was playing around with an electromagnetic transmitter. You decided to deliver a response. "Hey, scumbags, you're still gonna pay for San Holo," you screamed angrily and pressed the suppressor's activation button. It's not clear what happened after that, because visually nothing changed around your transporter, but the engine stopped cutting out, so unimpeded, you drove onward and quickly surmounted the dangerous section of the path. Instead of, like, your vehicle stopping right with, oh no!
I had a feeling it was something like that. Continue on the path to victory.
You passed several lateral tunnels, which your transporter simply wouldn't fit in, and almost ran into a guard post, where you noticed a couple of large caliber cannons. It wouldn't help to poke your head in there, so you quickly turned... Again! Wow! This military base is pretty serious here. I don't...
Well, they're kind of big.
Well, I mean, that just fucking, like, field of grass. Like, whatever. I don't know how space works in 3300. I don't know, like...
That's just so they don't get, cabin fever. Feels like home.
Okay.
It's just AstroTurf, man.
Space AstroTurf. It wouldn't help to poke your... Whatever. It wouldn't help to poke your head in there, so you quickly turned into an inconspicuous offshoot. I was just trying to process Space AstroTurf.
I threw up my hands to him. Well, why does it have to be Space Astro? It's already AstroTurf. In space.
So you quickly turned into an inconspicuous offshoot from the main tunnel and found yourself at the entrance to a car wash. But this was not an ordinary wash, but rather a full-fledged cleaning workshop capable of stripping both dirt and paint from filthy vehicles. Moving back a bit, you studied the situation, but couldn't find an alternative path. The only thing for you to do is put the transporter on the moving conveyor belt and go through the wash. We have no choice. We must go through the wash.
The world is ending, but I must wash.
Okay. But after being cleaned, your T-3400 will glow like a polished skeleton. You didn't like this analogy, but that's too bad. You have to keep moving forward. You examined the warning signs at the entrance and discovered that the cleaning process uses harmful chemicals that can cause suffocation and death, and therefore drivers must exit their vehicles and go into the pedestrian tunnel built off to the side. Unfortunately, its entrance was blocked by a metal plate, which would likely not even be appropriately affected by the weapons on your transporter, so you have to ride in the transporter. Oh well, you're no stranger to risking your life. After all, you're a ranger. So, we can examine how the conveyor belt works, or stand on the conveyor belt.
Let's examine it first. Also, we're down to a half tank of fuel.
Oh, more than a half tank. Near the entrance, you found a chart showing how the car wash operates. It showed that the conveyor belt moves at 1 meter per second. Automatic jets that spray chemicals are located at every 13, 18, 28, 34, and 45 meters, and are activated for 2 seconds every 3 seconds. It is vitally important that you are not in the spray zone, not only while the sprayers are emitting chemicals, but also immediately before they are turned on. And you can't quickly fly across the whole conveyor belt, because it is equipped with blocking gates that open on the computer's command only as a stationary object approaches. If you drive forward, you risk crashing into the gates, which will not open in time.
Well, I'm glad there's gates of contrivance. Otherwise, we could have fun.
So is that a print screen or was that a
I already
moment?
did.
Okay. I guess we're just going to stand and do our doom. At first, you proceeded very carefully, but then accelerated beyond your driving abilities and flew into a cloud of chemicals. You instantly held your breath and shut your eyes tightly, but nothing bad happened. You opened your eyes and observed that you are still alive. How great was your astonishment when you noticed that the armor you had installed on the transporter absorbed every last drop of the toxic spray. I'm also noticing the armor's completely gone.
Fucking chemicals, man.
What kind of material is this anyway? Satisfied that everything was okay, you calmly reached the end of the conveyor belt without paying any mind to the chemicals. When you exited the car wash, the armor simply crumbled off the hull from the slightest bump. Apparently, the chemicals burned it like fire burns wood. Well, it saved you from death. It would be hard to ask for more, but it's time for you to move on.
Thanks, armor. You'll be missed.
I would have to say that sounds like a pretty useful use of armor. Okay, you went down the next tunnel for a long time, which began to make you feel nauseous until you found yourself in the next tunnel, which served as a storage room for all kinds of junk. At least that's the impression it gave you. Heaps of assorted metallic trash lay in uneven rows, but you dodged between them on your T-3400, following a narrow, crooked path that had been cleared of junk. Suddenly, you noticed that the nose of the transporter constantly pulled off to one side, and you had to crank the wheel to get it back on the road. And the farther you went, the harder you had to work the wheel. At last, you stopped and looked about. Your fears were confirmed. There was a movable crane on the ceiling, from which was suspended an enormous industrial magnet that had attracted a pile of small pieces of iron. That's why you hadn't noticed it right away. And now the transporter you were riding on was threatened with the same fate as the pieces of iron. Something must be done quickly. Try to accelerate good and fast and dash past the dangerous situation, which might work given the turbocharger, or use the electromagnetic suppressor.
I mean, technically it's electromagnetic. It should work, I guess. I don't fucking know the signs. Let's use it.
You nearly got stuck behind some huge amorphous piece of plastic, but even so, you did manage to break through the adjacent path, which turned out to be even narrower than the one you had been driving on. However, the magnetic attraction was hardly noticeable here, so you will not make a relationship successful. So you were able to reach the end of the hall without trouble. Holy shit, they were fucking... wow. Okay. You reached a small platform that ends in a sharp drop. Instinct tells you that your path has nearly come to an end. But you must first get to the other side. There is a retractable bridge that connects your platform with the next, but it's partially pulled away from the other side, and the control panel isn't in sight. Fortunately, you remember that automatic bridges like this are equipped with emergency switches that operate on a broad spectrum. This knowledge may come in handy. Let's think out something. Oh.
God, why?
Oh, okay. You surveyed the situation. The size of the platform was approximately 8 meters by 10 meters. After brainstorming with yourself a bit, you determined that if you drove the T-3400 up to the edge of the precipice, then the small lip along the platform edge would help you reach the bridge. This requires the charge level of the jump meter installed in your transporter between... excuse me. To be between 10 to 12 units. Otherwise, you will either fly into the bridge or not reach it at all. Rocking back and forth slightly on the platform, you determine that 1 second...
This is fucking ridiculous. God damn it. Okay, so every second we get more stuff. Gotcha.
Yes. Rocking back and forth slightly on the platform, you determine that 1 second of motion would charge the kineticizer 1 unit, and that turning the Gravicar around would drain the charge 2 units. This information could very well help you charge your jump meter to the required level. You turn the Gravicar away from the precipice. Now it's time to start your maneuvers. You are heading west. The precipice is behind you. You are currently at the edge of the precipice.
Alright, so effectively what we're doing is driving around in circles, charging the ship, because we haven't been charging it this whole fucking time when we've been driving around this fucking place. This kilometers huge. Well, that's good. I'm glad we just flipped that switch.
I mean, I don't suppose we could just fucking spin in place a bunch of times until we get to like 10 to 12 and then just launch ourselves, could we?
Effectively, that's what we're gonna do. It's gonna be like Super Mario 3. We're just gonna run back and forth until we have the and then we'll fly over.
Yes. I was just hoping that we just didn't even have to like move straight, just like turn to the left and turn to the right. Just without even moving forward, just spin.
Alright, so it is effectively 80 meters square, and we just need to jump at the end. We need to have the jump meter at that, and I guess probably, you know, facing the precipice.
Probably, yeah.
Which direction is the precipice?
It is east.
East, so we are directly going away. Okay.
Yes.
I wonder how far we can go away from this. There's not like any information on that, because I mean,
if we're on X coordinate 8, perhaps we can go all the way to X coordinate 0.
Probably, okay. So we need to get to 10 to 12 units in that phase. Okay.
Yes. 1 second of motion would charge the kineticizer 1 unit. That turning the Gravicar around would drain the charge 2 units. So we're gonna have to get a lot of. That would be. I thought it said actually charge it, not drain the charge. So turning is bad. Turning is bad. Okay.
Mm-hmm. We could probably go like 6 meters in one direction, come back. No, maybe less.
This would probably be a great way to use all the transport fuel if you just get stuck here. Like
Because if we go 6 and then we come back 6, at the end of it we should have 12 minus 2 because we used 2 to turn.
Well,
although it's going to be 2 for each turn.
We'll have to turn twice. So
okay.
Yes. So if we go 6 and then we turn twice, we'd only have 2 units, and then we go forward 6, that's 8. We would have to go 7, and then 7 minus 4 is 3, and then 7 more is 10.
Yep, and that would work.
Well, let's see if we can actually go forward 7. I guess we'll try.
Yep.
1. Okay,
Looks like it.
Maybe 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You are at the west wall. Want to turn left or want to turn right? Like it fucking matters, right? Let's do left. DDR Jake's phrase, why do anything right?
Yep.
Alright, turn left again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Jump onto the bridge! We're okay.
Do a jump.
Nice. You set the jump meter's charge level, slammed the gas pedal, and the transporter shot forward. You waited until it was on the very edge of the abyss and pressed the large, but for some reason not red button. The T-3400 flew through the air like some giant had kicked it, while you were still sprawled out in the driver's seat. Overall, things went very smoothly. The transporter flew as far as could be expected, landed with precision on the bridge. I'm glad our character fucking has... This is the practical problem that I needed in, like, my calculus and, like, physics classes and shit. For, like, a practical application of problems.
Yes. You need to charge up this energy to get the Mach 5 over this precipice. What'd you do?
The transporter flew as far as could be expected, landed with precision on the bridge, leapt into the air once again, and came to a stop in the very center of the platform. You convulsed off of the seat and carefully put your jaw back into place, which you had dislocated from screaming. Then you got out, looked around, and realized that you had arrived. The only thing ahead is the docking hangar to which the military base is moored. Well, you stayed at the pirates for a while. Now it's time to call on the unwelcome invaders. So, like, this entire area was effectively, I guess, like the transition between the pirate base and the military base. You know,
Although the Malak and the transporters, those were definitely military or mercenaries.
You've brilliantly overcome another obstacle on the way to the primary target. The important thing now is to give up the heat and double. No, triple your determination and focus. Attack!
I'm guessing that means we got to a checkpoint.
We guess, and the next video. First try, Lethal. First try.
There you go. One shot.